Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Chem 170 with your host, me, Dr. White. Hi there. Remember, this Thursday, I will be giving the final exam for Chem 170. Boy, this semester just went boom. Summer does that. And let me remind you, the final will be on this Thursday. You'll have until Friday, the end of the night, to hand it in as a single PDF file. Because of the deadline I'm under on getting the grades in, please have the final in by that deadline. I really need that. Now, take as much time as you need to finish the final during that time period. Most students, when I give it face-to-face, the same kind of final, usually need 75 to 90 minutes, usually about 75, 80 minutes, no more than an hour and a half. That's the slowest students, those who want to check everything 3 or 4 times. All right. The final has 32 problems, 18 pages. Stop, take a deep breath, let it out. Take a deep breath, let it out. And this is doable. When I teach face-to-face and also on online, students usually, the average is about 175, 180, 185, which is approximately almost a 90 average on an hourly exam. So it's doable. Now, the points break down: 30 points general knowledge, 62 points nomenclature, 118 reactions. And it's got 10 bonus points, same as 2 tests. Now, if we look at the material from the different tests that we're on, test 1 material on the final will be 35 points, test 2, 60, 3, 58, 4, 53. And new material, amino acids and proteins, 4. Now, why not more points from test 1? Well, I'm not going to ask you how many carbons are in the longest chain, because you've learned that by now, I hope. And by Sunday, I should have the grades posted in D2L. I'll also have it sent to the school for the official grading platform. I can't remember its name right now, but that takes up to 24 hours before you'll see that officially. But your grade in D2L, and I'll send out an email once I post it with your points and percentage, will also be valid. Oops. Now, for the final exam, first of all, I'd highly recommend you watch these 3 videos. You got an email, and this is an announcement. I highly recommend you watch these videos. Sometime tomorrow, I'm going to send out a posted announcement and send out an email to each of you with the links to the test 1, 2, and 3. And also I'll have 4 videos with the answers for each one of those tests. Don't forget the hand-in labs. Now, the best way to prepare for the final exam is, first of all, go to D2L, go to the content area. You may have to scroll down. I did this. No, it's there again. At the very bottom, see the button here, load more. Again, you're going to have to click on the bottom, load more. I'm going to do that. And I'd highly recommend you download test 1 review file, test 2, test 3, and test 4 review file. Those are the reactions you need to know. Those are most of the material you need to know for the final exam. Now, the other advice I would give you to study for the final exam, just like in the hourly exams, I always said, you do the practice problems for each of those functional groups. And hopefully you realize by now why I call them practice problems, because they're similar to what you see on the hourly exams. Well, guess what? Use your hourly exams as practice problems. Am I going to put the same problems on? No. But am I going to put a double bond reacting with something, just like I did on test one? Of course. Same thing with the alcohol reacting with certain reagents, ketones and aldehydes, esters, and so on. Will I ask, is this object chiral or not? Well, I might. So use your 4 tests as practice problems, and you'll be prepared. For those of you who learned the method, don't forget to use the method. I'm talking about the test anxiety reduction method. Now, before I leave, this is our last time together this semester. Let's go through some important things. Wrong thing to look at. Oop, I don't have it open yet. I do have it open. I see where I made my mistake. Let's go through a couple of things I expect you to learn or have learned leaving my class. The first one is, how does soap work? And soap has a nonpolar tail and a polar head. And remember, water is polar and dirt and grease are nonpolar. And the key to puzzle, how does soap work, is like dissolves like. And that's things that are soluble in polar things are soluble in polar solvents, and nonpolar things are soluble in nonpolar solvents. And because soap is got a polar tail, nonpolar tail, polar head, if I had some dirt here, it attracts the nonpolar tail of soap, and the polar heads want to be as far away on the outside. And we call this a micelle. And because I'm only drawing a couple, but there'd be enough soap molecules to totally surround that dirt particle to form the micelle. And now the micelle looks polar to water, and they go down the drain together. Because water says to the micelle, I'm polar, you're polar, I know like dissolves like, and they go down the drain. That's one thing you should know leaving my class. How does soap work? Next thing you should know leaving my class, how do you describe with words in a general reaction when you eat something that has a fat or oil in it? And the way you describe it with words is acid, because that's what's in your stomach, and mine too, and water, so we call that hydrolysis. And the functional group in a fat or oil is an ester. And to write the general reaction, you learn for test 3, ester, acid, water. You get back the carboxylic acid plus the alcohol you would have used to make that ester. So you should know how to describe with words in a general reaction what happens when you eat a fat or oil. You should also know how to describe when you eat a carbohydrate. And there, again, your stomach is acid. Acid, water means you're going to have a hydrolysis. And the functional group holding together glucose and starches is an acetal. And you learn for test number 2, acid plus water. You get back the aldehyde or ketone plus the alcohol you would have used to make that. And to remember the 2 twins I had, you could, but you don't have to put a 2 there. So when you eat a carbohydrate, how do you describe that with words in a general reaction? You have acid hydrolysis of an acetal. And you learn for test 2, the general reaction is acetal, ketal, acid, and water. Get back the aldehyde or ketone plus the alcohol you would have used to make that acetal or ketal. And finally, how do you describe with words in a general reaction what happens when you eat a protein? Well, once again, we have acid in our stomach, hydrochloric acid. I'm always amazed that you and I have in our stomach, and I think part of your intestine, but don't quote me on that, cells that make hydrochloric acid. That just totally amazes me to this day. And there's water, so this is a hydrolysis. And what's the functional group that holds amino acids together in a protein? And that's an amide. So when you eat a protein, describing with words in your stomach, you have acid hydrolysis of an amide. And for test 3, you learned amide. And I'll write it here, but you don't have to. R prime and R double prime can be hydrogen. And I'll put the acid down as HCl and water. And you get back the carboxylic acid you would have used to make that amide. Plus, amines are base in the presence of acid. You get the amine salt of the amine you would have used to make that amide. So when you eat a protein, you should know that how to describe with words in a general reaction that's acid hydrolysis of an amide. And there you have the functional group that holds amino acids together is an amide. You have HCl, hydrochloric acid, and water, and you get back, just like you learned for test 3, the carboxylic acid you would have used to make that amide, plus the amine salt of the amine you would have used to make that amide. Now, some advice for the final exam. Remember, there's always 4 bonds to carbon. I gotta get that finger fixed. 4 bonds to carbon. When I've graded over the years, the final exam is students said, look, where I made that change, there's only 3 bonds to carbon. That can't be right. Or there's 5 bonds to carbon. Yes, people have done that. That can't be right because there's only 4 bonds to carbon. Now, when you're doing nomenclature and reactions, look for what's different. Look for what's not a carbon-carbon single bond, and look for what's not a carbon or a hydrogen atom, because that's where the fun is. That's where the functional group is. And the third thing you should remember for the final, do you break carbon-carbon single bonds? No. I'll say that again in slow motion. Do you break carbon-carbon single bonds? No. So no, you don't break carbon-carbon single bonds. That will help you on the final. Use your tests as review. I'll send out probably tomorrow morning sometime an email, an announcement I'll post giving you the location of the different videos, because they're all private, with the answers for tests 1, 2, 3, and I'll be posting this one that I did earlier tonight for test 4, and that should help you do well. And with that, I'm done for the semester. The first video, I'm pretty sure I said, in organic chemistry, it's my world of organic chemistry is your world of organic chemistry. You just don't know it. But now I can say my world of organic chemistry is your world of organic chemistry, and you do know it. And most people in this country, most people on this planet don't know about that world. You do. And with that, I'm done. I'll stick around afterward to answer any questions, but you know what I'm going to do next. I'm going to say, "Gang gesund," which is going health in Yiddish, and I'll say, bye now, bye now. Stole that from Granny to Beverly Hillbillies. Bye.